G'day all, welcome back to Off-Road Crusader, the channel where we try and do everything DIY and it costs us 3 times as much and takes twice as long, which is pretty much the standard rate for most DIY stuff. I think most guys would agree. Yeah, including him. So today we're going to be running through the plans for the new drawer setup. Well, the drawers themselves aren't really going to change, but there's a number of things that I'd like to do to change it, which I think would improve it and make it more efficient and much better when we're camping and that sort of thing. Because at the moment it's great, but I think it could be better. And people who know me know that I'm always striving to make things a little bit better than they usually are. And yeah, as you can see, the ARB 60 litre fridge is gone, and in place I've got one of these upright 85 litre fridges. So the old ARB fridge was really good. I really enjoyed it. I had it for just about 10 years and look, it never let me down. It was a great fridge, used very minimal power, lots of space, was very versatile. But for this setup, because of the tailgate, you can't just sort of have a drop down slide. You'd have to have a fridge slide and all that sort of stuff. And when I'm trying to maximize the space and minimize weight and that sort of stuff, it became difficult. So I did have the ARB fridge built into like a shroud, like a sort of compartment for it. And every time I wanted to use it, I'd have to pull the fridge out, open it, use it, do what I wanted to do, and then put it back away, which wasn't too bad in sort of a single use, but especially when you're sort of going away for a night or a few nights or for a week, it gets a bit old dragging a heavy fridge forward and back just to, you know, get a drink out or something like that. So there is a very general rule that I go by with buying new gear. And the general rule, and a lot of people will agree, and this is sort of a bit of a trend as well, is higher quality gear costs more and lower quality gear costs less. And if you look at all the gear in the entire world, there is a very general trend line that sort of follows that. It is not a blanket rule. There is some gear out there you spend huge amount of dollars and you don't get a great product, or you can spend very minimal dollars and get a great product. So it's a general rule, but it's a sort of thing to sort of start your thinking and sort of, I suppose, work against if you're financially challenged, like most people are at the moment with interest rates the way they are. So I looked at a bunch of different fridges that were uprights. The main sort of most common fridge at the moment in Australia is a Bushman upright 85 litre. Great fridge. Bushman are an Australian company and they have a good warranty. So I think it's about 2 years or 3 years or something you get with the fridge. And look, like all products, they have their pros and cons, and a lot of people document a lot of pros and a lot of cons about these fridges. Now, I looked at some other ones, such as the Engel upright fridge, the Dometic, Brass Monkey was another one as well. Look, they all had their pros and cons, and none of them really stood out as a clear winner, especially when all that sort of price range is up between your $1,200 and $1,500. This is going to ruffle a few feathers, but I decided to go for an Adventure Kings 85 litre upright fridge. For those that know the history of this fridge, it had a long-standing rivalry with Bushman. Originally, when the fridge came out, it was probably about 1 or 2 years ago, it was an exact replica, and there are a number of reviews and stuff on YouTube to prove that. It's basically just an unbranded Bushman fridge for a hugely marked down price. I think there was a lawsuit or something like that. Adventure Kings have now released the fridge again with a bunch of different design changes, but essentially mechanically it's the same fridge. So as far as I am aware, as far as I can tell, and as far as my intuition goes, this is the same fridge as a Bushman, with some aesthetic and slight design changes. I bought this fridge for 600 bucks. The Bushman fridge was 1,500 at the time, and it was the best price I could find on it. And also I'd have to sort of go away and source it, whereas this was available locally. $600, 5-year warranty. It's pretty much the exact same internals and everything else going on inside it. There's some slight design changes, but apart from that, it's the same fridge. And so that's why I ended up going for this fridge, because I believe that for 600 bucks, you can get nearly the identical same fridge as a $1,500 fridge without paying for the brand and all the rest of it. Plus you get a longer warranty, and plus there's actually stores around which you can go to with the fridge to describe your warranty process rather than having to email or phone call someone. So I've got an upright fridge, which is really cool. I no longer have to worry about sliding it forward and back. It's in a fixed position, so I think I've got stuff sort of traveling around everywhere. All the cords and everything are fixed. I've just run it to the same fridge outlet that I had, obviously through an Anderson plug, which is what these fridges come with. Inside, nice big freezer compartments, about 6 litres I think it is, so plenty of room for a few bits and pieces. Lots of shelf space. This bottom sort of, I suppose, is like a veggie drawer, is kind of handy because it contains everything. The door has these little sliders on the inside to help sort of maintain your drinks in the same position, and I find that cans fit really well up here, whereas you can also fit like a 2 litre milk bottle and stuff down here, which is kind of handy. It's got a digital thermostat, so you can change the temperature rating digitally rather than just a dial where you're sort of guessing, and got a little internal light in there as well. At the moment I'm running it pretty much constantly. It draws, well, at the moment, on average, 1 amp per hour is what it draws. So, which I think is pretty cool. Obviously that's through the day and through the night. I've had it parked in the sun. It's got plenty of ventilation and stuff in there as well. There are vents at the back right-hand corner, if we're looking at it from this direction, right up the top as well, which is handy. And it worked out quite well because when I put this in, the vents all sat just above where this sort of top board line would be, which is kind of cool because that means I didn't have to do many cutouts or anything like that. It's exactly the same width as the ARB 60 litre fridge, so it just plonks straight in there. I did sort of do a bit of research on upright fridges while I was researching that, and made sure that the width was going to be the same, because at some stage I was going to upgrade to this fridge, and it's nice to know that it would just plonk straight in there. So power draw is pretty low. Weight wise, I'll put up the specs and everything on the screen now, but you'll be able to see that by the time you have your fridge plus a fridge slide versus just having a fridge there, this saves a lot of weight. It's a larger fridge, so if I had to go from an ARB 60 to an ARB or any other 85 or bigger litre fridge, then I would be using a lot more, or I'll be taking up a lot more weight compared to going to something like this. Everything's accessible. I've done some four-wheel driving with it and haven't found that everything falls out as people seem to think. Again, it's only really drawing 1 amp per hour, like as an average over 24 hours. So I'm really happy with that. That's a little bit better than what the ARB fridge was getting. And yeah, I'm super stoked. So good fridge so far. I'll give it a 12-month review a little bit further down the track. But so far, I'm really happy with it. The single latch at the top is probably the only thing that I can see being, I suppose, an issue, maybe, if you want to call it that. Oh, wow. Say hello. Hi. Close enough. So the single latch up the top means that you can open, like just use the latch and open it with one hand, but it feels much more sturdy to obviously use a second hand to open the fridge. It's a fairly simple device. I don't see the latch failing, but again, I've only had the fridge for a little while now, and after a few more months and maybe even a year, I'll give a bit more feedback and let you know how it's going. But so far, I'm really happy with it. I've saved $800 on a fridge, and I think I've got the exact same product, so really happy with that. So the next bit we're going to be improving on with this drawer setup is this side panel in here, conveniently covered in all these lovely patches people have sent me. If you want to get your patch on here, I've got a lot more carpet that I can cover up. Get in contact and I will probably even do a patch swap with you, because you know, it's all about sharing and caring and getting the names out there. So in this compartment, I store my Coleman Even Temp camping stove. It's basically just a big cavity. The stove fits really well in there, quite snug. And it's great, it holds it away, but I find that when we're at camp and I've got the stove out, I feel like it's a bit of a waste of space. Like it could be also used and utilized while we're at camp, rather than just being a cavity that things sort of sit in. So I'm going to be putting the camps, because the camp stove can go wherever. I can throw it wherever it needs to go. It's quite sturdy and weatherproof and all the rest of it. So I'm going to turn this into a bit of a slide out pantry, a bit like what I had on the Prado. I do miss having that sort of setup. So I'm going to be building a slide out pantry on there. I'm going to be recording the whole process and taking you along with me, and hopefully allowing for a bit more usability with this setup. Because at the moment, like we sort of store like kitchen ware, like plates, cups, bowls, utensils, that sort of stuff, all underneath, which is great. But we find that when we're putting stuff in this top drawer and then we have the table out, we can't quite open this drawer to access everything in there. And if we've got lots of food stuff, so I'd like to be able to access everything on the fly and a lot more easier. rather than needing to clear the bench before opening this drawer. Some may see it as a bit of a design oversight, but I still stick by that it's a really good design, and there's got to be a different way of doing it rather than the norm. So I'm happy to do DIY and chop and change things. Luckily, when I took the top off and fitted the fridge, it left some timber over, so I'm going to use a bunch of that to build this slide out pantry and yeah, give myself a little bit more usability. I think also this little charge station up the top is probably going to go. A large volume of space that really doesn't get used apart from some outlets, and I think it could be more efficient. So I'll probably redesign and do something different with that as well. And yeah, that way Teddy up here has a little bit more room to sleep, which would be nice for him. So the final thing, which is probably going to improve this drawer setup a lot more, is over this side. So over here, yeah? Oh, you want to sit with me? So over here, I've got my water outlet, I've got light switches. One's kind of redundant at the moment and I've swapped it over to this one. Don't touch. And then my hose reel for my air outlet for my ARB compressor. I find that with like this one, I have to plug in a garden hose to use it, which is fine. It's easy enough to do, but every time we have to move, or if I just want to use some water real quick, I have to plug the hose in, prime the system, get water flowing, turn it all off, dry it all out. It's a bit of a process, whereas the air compressor, I don't use it as much. I mean, you only air up very rarely. Well, not as much as you're going to be using your water tank anyway. So I think what I'm going to end up doing is swapping the water to come out through the hose reel, and then having an air outlet chuck just hard mounted onto here with a hose, just an ARB hose that I can plug in when I need to use it. I think that's going to be better because it means that when I want to use the water, the outlet's there ready to go. It's not leaking any water anywhere. Whereas the ARB, the air outlet, can just be whenever I need to use it. So that'll probably be happening, swapping those ones over. These light switches, I think I can probably compact down a little bit more. I've got my solar input. So this one here is primarily if I get a solar blanket and I want to add to my solar input to the system. I think I'm taking up a lot of space for something that I'm probably not going to use very much. And I'd probably prefer just to have a solar input Anderson plug tucked away behind the seats or something like that. Because that way, if I do need to use it, I can sort of pull the seats down and find it. Whereas taking up prime real estate with a socket I'm rarely going to use is probably not the best idea. So that'll probably get moved somewhere, and I want to have it so that this has also got some storage available in it as well. So look, yeah, there's a lot going on, and got a bit of work ahead of me, but it's all about improving a design, figuring out where things can improve and what you can do to make your experience better, and then moving forward with what you can do. So that's what I'm planning to do. So look, I hope you've enjoyed that. Bit of an overview of what we're going to be doing. I'm going to be trying and pumping out some more videos every month in terms of this build series, because there's a bit going on and I want to show you how the DIY process sort of works on my side of the fence. And I'm also really keen to get this sorted for winter, so that way when winter rocks around and we go away camping a lot more, my setup is as good as it can be. Well, for now anyway, until I decide to change something else. So thank you very much for watching. Do consider grabbing some merch as well. There's a link in the description of grabbing yourself a patch or a sticker or even a t-shirt if you want to grab one of these awesome t-shirts and rep the brand. And there's also Patreon as well. I've got some cool stuff coming up this year for Patreon exclusively. If you want to get involved in that and learn more about it, check out my Patreon page. Again, there's a link in the description. And hopefully I'll see you there to support the channel into the future. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you next time on Off-Road Crusader. Cheers.